Hey, how many of you grew up poor? Now, what's poor? What's poor? It just depends on how, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got to tell you a true story about Hyles Anderson College. So, I had been working with my dad all summer, and when you're poor, you got roaches. It's just poor cockroaches. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if my wife sees a roach, I mean, she's like, Freddie, that is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, what are you talking about? They never bothered me when I was young. You know what I'm talking about? We live with them. I mean, you know how people say they're mean and this and that they crawl in people's ears and they go in your brain and stuff. They probably didn't like my brain or something, you know? But we grew up with roaches, so I got to tell you a true story. So I had worked all summer with my dad, and I had one raincoat, not a winter coat, but in Indiana it gets like -30 sometimes. Like you spit, and before it spits, it's already an ice cube. I'm serious. You didn't? Well, you're a rough crowd. All right. I'm going to have to kick somebody out. If you're not smiling, I'm kicking you out. I'm going to go make you sit next to Pastor Ray back there. All right? Don't ask me if I voted for Trump. Don't look at me that way. I couldn't vote for Hillary, all right? All right, I'm just being honest with you. Now, let's go back here. All right, so here we go. So I arrive in Bible college, and I open up, and I had just gone home and put all my stuff in a bag. True story. And I get this black raincoat out, long. It's the only winter coat I had. And roaches start dropping. Like 30, 40 roaches just start dropping. And I'm not exaggerating. By the end of the year, the whole 3 floors of dorm floors were infested with those cockroaches. That's love. They didn't want me to go. So they decided to go with me on that journey. They're not allowed in my home no more, but those roaches were there. But we grew up poor. You know, one of the signs if you're poor, there's roaches in the house. How many of you have roaches in the house? Be honest with me. All right, you see, that's cool. It's like, hey, have they gone in your ear? Right? People like these myths, you know what I'm saying? You got a couple of them like in your sweater right now you brought to the youth conference. You need to register them. You know what I'm talking about? And I remember we were poor, and this is true. We couldn't open the refrigerator without permission. How many of you think that's weird? Raise your hand if you think you loco. Yeah, I'm translating for you. Raise your hand if that's weird. Like, how many of you know what I'm talking about? Like, you can't open the refrigerator in your house without... Pastor Walter, right? Your wife, she doesn't let you do that at the house. I know what that's like. No, seriously, how many of you, your parents, you can't open the refrigerator without permission? Well, no wonder I'm traumatized. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I walk by my refrigerator in my house, and I just open it and close it. My wife's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting back at my youth. You know what I mean? Because when I was small, I couldn't open the refrigerator. But we were so poor, we had to ask for my brother Miguel at night. He would be hungry, and we could go through a gallon of milk in a day. And so after a certain time, we were only allowed so many ounces of milk a day. And obviously I cheated. That's why I grew taller, because milk makes you grow taller. I don't think Pastor Ray cheated, so that's why he stayed shorter. I don't know. Something happened with the milk. You know what I'm talking about? And so my brother, what he would do at night, because we would get in trouble for eating cereal with milk at night, because it was like proportion, and it had to, ration to the end of the month. And any of you know what I'm talking about? No, and I'm not, this isn't a joke. I'm telling you so you can pray for me, because I'm still kind of traumatized. You can tell about this. Yeah. So we were in the lobby right now, and Brother Ray, what are you doing with your basket? He goes, there's fruit in here that I don't want. I said, give it to me. And I got it in my bag back there. I got like 2 peaches in that black bag back there. We don't throw anything away. That'll feed my kids like for a month. I'm serious. At least a month, and if it's going to go bad, what I do is I cut them up and I dehydrate them on the roof. So let's get back. So what my brother would do is he would grab a gallon of milk. This is true story. And he would grab the box of cereal. He'd go to the bathroom. How many of you have ever served cereal to yourself in the bathroom? Now, he did take a bowl. Don't think he ate out of the bowl. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to teach you something. Don't tell your parents I taught you this at youth conference. So what he would do is, because at night you could hear the cereal pouring. No, that's not that's like a helicopter sound. What the hell? What does cereal sound like? Who said that? You did? Did you say that? No, I'm messing with you. I'm going to let you stay. I'm going to let you stay. Father, forgive her. She knows not what she says. Okay, you can stay, okay? And so this is what my brother would do. He would walk, true story, with a gallon of milk and cereal. You like Lucky Charms or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? They weren't very lucky after, you know what I mean? And he would flush the toilet and pour the cereal. So he could mask the shh. Do the sound. Kaboosh! See, you couldn't hear the cereal pouring. You see that? I'm serious. That's what we would do. But my sister raised me, and my sister had 6 of her own children. True story. And so that's why I said, like the food, there was 8 kids in the house. We had a 2-bedroom house. And my brother Miguel lived in the aluminum shed in the back. And true story. Yeah, his room, and he was cool about that. I mean, you live in California. He lived in the aluminum shed. He didn't fit in the house with it. Get out of here. Go to the aluminum shed. Does anybody live in an aluminum shed? My brother did. And now he owns a house in Alabama. Isn't God good from an aluminum shed? He had to write a book, From the Aluminum Shed to Alabama. Yeah. You said, how come you didn't tell us these last 10 years? Because he was here. I could tell you everything now. What else do you want to know? Let's talk about Brother Miguel tonight. You know, he's not here. So I remember, I don't miss him. I don't know why you're missing him. Yeah, he did a lot of bad things to me in my youth. I'm still traumatized. But that's a different youth conference, okay? We'll come back next year. Well, that'll be a different thing. So remember, usually when you're the youngest, you get the leftovers. Who knows what that's like? You get the hand-me-downs, the used shoes, the used shirts, you know what I mean? The underwear that have 3 holes in them. And your mom says, they're still good, mijo. Todavía están buenos, mijo. Todavía están buenos para el aire, you know? Si te echas una, ahí sale todo, you know what I mean? Ahí sale, oh, okay, you know what I'm talking about. What I told them is like, if they're holy underwear, you know what I'm talking about? If something happens and like air comes out, it's like free flowing. You know what I'm talking about? These are not in my notes. I just want you to know that. I'm not scripted. This is all, I don't know where it's coming from, but he started it over there, okay? What was I talking about? Oh, hand-me-downs. How many of you have gotten the hand-me-downs from your family? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay, so it's even worse when you're not number 6. I'm number 7 because it's first my sister's 6 kids, and then like, you know, when you're like the stepchild, you know what I mean? Like kind of like I was in the house. So you get the love story. So I remember one time, we were poor, seriously. So we bought a churro. You know what a churro is, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They sell them at Taco Bell. Oh, yeah. Real authentic Mexican food. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. You're cool, man. You can handle that. So we bought a churro, right? But there was a rule. You could lick the churro, but don't bite the churro. Yes. So here's kid number 1. You know what I'm saying? All the cinnamon and sugar, and I'm just praying, Lord, give me some of that cinnamon and sugar. Because, see, the kids licked it, and then the adults, they ate the churro. You know what I mean? So everybody could get, like, a taste. Yeah. So kid number 2 licks the churro. Man, I'm just thinking, oh, dear Lord, dear Lord. So here it comes. All 6 kids lick the churro. All I got was saliva from the rest of them. You know what I'm talking about? That's how poor we were. El churro no tenía nada. Ya me messed up, traumatized. So I remember before my mom went to live in Mexico, we went to Disneyland. And you know how expensive, like what does a burger cost at Disneyland? $29 or something like that? How much? Like 30? Yeah, I mean, it's like too much. You know what I mean? Like how much does a drink cost? Like $5.95. You know what I mean? You can go buy a bottle of water, you know what I mean, at Aldi for 10 cents. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. You're crazy. And so here we are in Disneyland, and my mom, it was summertime. She made us wear coats. And you know what my mom made? She made burritos, and she wrapped them in aluminum foil. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So she put them in the coats, and here I come walking into Disneyland like I've never been there before in my life, and Pluto sees me. And he's like sniffing me up and down, tenía chorizo, you know what I mean, some frijoles in there. He's like all happy, you know, Pluto's ears are going up and down. And it was a good day, you know what I mean, but I smelled like an aluminum burrito that day because of my mom. We were poor. And I remember we were walking out. It was beautiful. And I don't know if you've ever seen your friends, but when they come back from Disneyland, they got the hat, and it's got their name on it. and it's all about me and you want all your friends to know you went to Disneyland. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? So we went to Disneyland, and we're walking out, and they got all the shops, and I said, Ma, ¿me compras una de esas cachuchitas, Mom? You know, with the little hats, Mom, with the Mickey ears. And she goes, ¿para qué quieres eso, verdad? Ya te traje. I go, Mom, they're called souvenirs. ¿Sube qué? ¿Sube qué? Súbete para acá. ¿Cómo que sube qué? And I'm like, no, Mom, souvenir, Mom. And you know, the picture has like a picture, the ticket. He goes, para eso tienes el boleto, se lo enseñas a tus amigos. Tell your friends I brought you, look right there, look right there. And I go, no, Mom, I want the nice ears, the Mickey ears. Y que diga, Freddy. And then you know what my mom said? What you want that for? She says, you already got ears as big as Dumbo. You don't need those ears, you know. So if you ever go to Disneyland and think about me, Freddy, okay? All right. I said that at a youth conference. You know what the youth group did? They went to Disneyland and bought me a hat, and they brought it to me. Yeah, that's how kind they were. So I'm hoping that you have some Christianity too. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, go to the book of Psalms with me. Go to the book of Psalms with me, all right? Hey, I'm going to be like no more than 30 minutes. That's what I say on Sunday, and then I preach like an hour. How many of your pastors do that? How many of your pastors do that? Yeah, that's lying. That's lying. Where do liars go? They go to church on Sunday, amen. Look at Psalm 107. Psalm 107 today. Can I get one of them portable mics, Pastor Walter? Can I get one of those portable mics? I want to thank Pastor Walter for such a great job that he's doing. And, you know, it always takes a while to come in and take over after somebody. And he's doing a great job, and I want you to support him. And if you say, hey, it's different from last year, it is. It is. And, hey, Brother Miguel used to do it this way, but Brother Miguel's not here no more. You know, and it's not fair. You know, I never think it's fair. You never want to be compared to nobody else. You never want somebody to compare you to your sister, your friend. And let's be fair to this guy. And I want you to thank him and thank his wife and say, thank you so much for the youth conference. And thank you for all your hard work. You know, they don't get paid extra for being here, but they do this because they love you, you know. And that's why they brought Brother Ray this year. You know what I mean? So you can go talk to him about all your problems, all right? You do that. Now, he's got a book for that. He's got a book for that. All right? So read the book first and then ask a question. And I'm serious. Buy all the books. After you read all the books, we'll come back next year, and I'm going to check if you read all the books. Have you read the book, sir? All of them? No, I'm talking to this guy right here. Yeah, no pressure on you. You're good, man. This guy's nervous already. I'm not even talking to him. Yes, sir! I wrote them! Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Psalm 107. I want to show you some verses here, and I just want to be real with you today. And I want to talk to you about flirting with the enemy. Flirting with the enemy. I want to talk to you about flirting with the enemy. Psalm 107 and verse 13 says this, then they cried unto the Lord in their trouble. Look what the Bible says. And he saved them out of their distress. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death and break their bands in sunder. Look at what the Bible says, how we should be. Oh, that man would praise the Lord. Why? For his goodness, because he broke the chains, because he took you out of darkness, and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Look at verse 16. For he hath broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in sunder. He did that for what? For you. For you. Let me pray and we'll get right into it. Father, I pray that you help me tonight. Help me to be clear. Help me to be concise. Help me to only say what you want me to say. Make me a blessing to these young people. Amen. I met my dad when I was 14. I didn't know my dad until I was 14. I'm 16. I've been working for him 2 summers, and he's living in Northern California. And all my life, I've grown up in Southern California. And one day, he wanted to talk to me. This is like the first man-to-man, like father-to-son talk my dad's going to have with me. And I don't know, we're at the business. And he closes his shop down, and we're in his warehouse. And he says, I need to talk to you, Alfredo. And I was like, yeah, Dad. And we sat down. He says, I want to ask you a question. I said, yes, sir, Dad. Yes, sir. It was very humbling. And I don't want you to laugh about it because it was a serious question. Now, I'm being serious now, and I want you to know that. My wife says, Freddie, you got to let people know when you're being serious because people don't know when you're being serious or not being serious. But I'm being serious right now. And my dad in Spanish asked me a question. It really broke my heart that day. It made me feel real bad. It made me feel just And he said this, he said, and he was real serious when he asked me the question. He said, are you queer? And I said, no, sir. He said, I've never seen you go on a date with a girl. I said, I understand. He said, today a girl walked in here with her mom. She's one of my best clients. And that girl was looking at you, and the mom even told you that that girl wanted to go to the movies with you, and you ignored her. He said, I don't want to have no queer son. He said, are you queer? Be honest with me. Are you queer? And I said, no, sir. I'm not queer. I said, Dad, I said, I believe that God has somebody for me. I said, but I haven't met her yet. I said, but Dad, I am saving myself for that person. I said, I don't know where she is. I don't even think I've met her yet. I don't even think I know her. I'm 16 years old. And here I am talking to a man who left my mom when she was pregnant with me. And the reason he left my mom when she was pregnant was because he had two women pregnant at the same time. My dad had two wives at the same time. I was born April 10th. I have a brother that was born in August, lived 25 minutes from us in Southern California. I didn't meet him until I was 30-something years old, about 5-6 years ago. Two wives. My grandfather left my grandmother for women. My father left my mom, left that other lady, got another girlfriend in Northern California. I remember nights when I would work with my father, he would come and throw rocks at the window so I could open the door because he was so drunk I didn't even know where he was that night. And here's my father asking a 16-year-old, you queer? And I'm like, no, sir. No, sir. You see, my dad wasn't saved. And you know what the book of Psalms says? He was chained. My dad was a slave to sin. My dad was enslaved to sin. My dad didn't know any better. My dad didn't know Jesus. But see, I know Jesus and you know Jesus. And a lot of you in this room, maybe your mom and dad got saved later in life. Maybe you're the first generation from your family. And maybe sometimes people look at you and say, hey, why are you different from your father? Why are you different from your grandmother? Why are you different from the other young people that are in your neighborhood? How come you're not like them? How come you don't dress like them? How come you don't go out to the girls with the movies? There's nothing wrong with that. How come you don't hold the hand? Hey, is it that they've washed your brain in that youth conference? Or what have they done to you? Why do you act that way? What's so wrong with this? And I want to say, well, you see, Jesus broke the chains of my life. And there's a choice now. So I want to tell you a story, true story, and I'm actually going to read the article so I get it right. Right next door to my town in Indiana, there's a state called Ohio, all right? And a few years ago, there was these ladies that had been abducted by a man. One of the ladies had been abducted for 10 years. They were all teenagers, about your age, junior high, most of them, when they were abducted. I'm going to read this article to you now. On the day before her 17th birthday in 2003, Amanda Berry disappeared. As she made her way home from her job at Burger King in Cleveland, a year later, another Cleveland teen, 14-year-old, can you imagine? 14-year-old Gina De Jesus vanished while returning from middle school. Searches for both girls came up empty, and as years passed, it seemed less likely that either girl would ever be seen again. In fact, the girls were still in Cleveland. They had been abducted by a man, Ariel Castro, who had kidnapped another young woman by the name of Michelle Knight in 2002. Some of these girls spent over 10 years in captivity. I'm going to continue reading. Barry De Jesus and journalist Mary Jordan tell the Fresh Air's Terry Gross about the girls' years in captivity, during which time Castro kept Barry, De Jesus, and Knight chained up like a dog. They said that their chains were long enough where they could move in this tiny little home. Sometimes they could only reach a garbage can and they would have to go to the bathroom in a garbage can. Oh, I forgot to tell you, one of the girls got pregnant and gave birth to this man's child. They said he cut the grass real nice in the front of the house. It's amazing, you know, how Satan will show you the front of the house, but he'll never show you what's going on in the house. He'll tell you, oh, it's okay. It's okay. You know, nobody would have stopped me from taking money. I remember that night when my dad asked me if I was queer. He took out the keys and he threw them at me, and he took a wad of cash and he said, you call that girl and take her to the movies tonight. And I said, no, sir. I remember my uncle and my cousin made fun of me because my dad went to talk to the family, got drunk, and said, I think my son's a queer. I said, I'm not a queer, Dad. I remember when I got engaged and told my dad I'm going to marry somebody, he said, you should never get married. Should never get married. Here these girls are in chains, and we see right here, it says this, one day, 10 years, abducted. Barry saw an opportunity to escape. Castro left the house and neglected to lock one of the doors. Barry ran to the unlocked door, but was stopped by a second door. He boarded up the house and put curtains in front of the boards. Nobody knew anything. When she jumped through that door, she started kicking the door and screaming for her life. A neighbor heard and had never heard a woman in that house. The neighbor came and pried the door open. She said, I climbed out and had my daughter climb out. We were free. The little girl was born in 2006. Her name was Jocelyn. Barry called the police, who were in shock. This is what they said. When we first met him and he met us on the street, we were teenagers before he abducted us. He wasn't mean. He was real nice. He was real talkative. One girl says, it was tough trying to sleep. The chain was around my stomach and there was a big lock on it. So many times I wanted to turn on my side and I would have to move the chain to put the lock on the front of my stomach, or I'd be lying on the big chain and this big lock. It was just uncomfortable. Jordan says he was very clever. He was a smooth operator. Smooth operator. You remember that psalm? Can you go back to that psalm with me? I want you to see that verse. It says this, then they cried unto the Lord. Hey, these girls were crying. You remember when you got saved? You remember that camp? You remember that youth conference? You remember when you were a little boy? You remember when you were a little girl? I don't know. How many of your parents are saved? How many of your parents go to church and are saved? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. How many of you, you're the first generation to get saved? I want you to raise your hand. Wow. I'll end with that. I'm going to come back to that. Don't forget that. Because I think sometimes we got this generational thing. See, I was the first generation in my family to get saved. Brother Ray, and sometimes I worry about my kids. I pray for them because they've never seen sin firsthand. I remember when I was filling out my application for Bible college, have you ever drank beer? I couldn't put no. Because I remember when I was small, my mom would take the leftover of the beer and put salt and lime so we could go to bed. She'd get us drunk at night. So I couldn't put no on my Bible college application. Because mom would give us beer at night so we could go to sleep. That was my life. My mom used to run prostitutes. I remember the day my wife came home and she shut the door. She said, how does your mom know so much about prostitution? We were going down State Line. We live a half a block from State Line Road where the prostitutes go. Because see, what happens is when the cops come, they jump the state line. So if they're on the Illinois side and an Illinois cop is coming, they jump to the Indiana side. If they're on the Indiana side and an Indiana cop is coming, they go to the Illinois side. She said, Freddie, I was going down the street with your mom, and your mom says, Ellie, that one, prostituta. That one, prostituta. So my wife's like, well, there's some things you didn't tell me about your past. And I said, well, sit down. I said, when my uncle died, you know, he left the bar, and it was alcohol and prostitution. I said, and when my uncle died, that was a family business, and we moved from California to Mexico. I said, and my mom ran the business. I said, you know, when you're small, you don't understand all these things, but I remember getting up in the morning and men walking out of the rooms. And I remember my mom looking at one of the prostitutes saying, hey, Alfredo's hungry, cook him breakfast. And a prostitute would cook me eggs in the morning. She'd go cut up fruit for me. That was my life. I remember walking into the house and finding where my brother would leave his stash of heroin and different things. I remember opening a refrigerator, and the only thing that was in the refrigerator was Tampico orange juice and a bag of marijuana. I remember going to jails and visiting my uncles in Mexico because they had dope that they were selling over there. I remember my cousin who died because he was drinking straight alcohol and his liver exploded. Oh, by the way, my mom's father figure was her oldest brother, who was a full-fledged homosexual. That was the closest thing my mother ever had to a father, was her brother who was queer. But here's what I want to tell you. God saved me from that. God took the chains from my family from sin. God took those chains when we were chained up, when we were living in bondage and we were living in darkness, and God set us free from those chains. God cut us loose so that we could serve Him, not so that you and I could go back to sin. God didn't drag your parents out of the darkness and out of the chains so that you can go back and say, I really want to come back to the chains with you. But I'm afraid that that's how some of you want to go back and live today. Some of you today, you're flirting with the enemy, you're flirting with the devil. Oh, they asked the young man, how did you get so messed up in pornography? He said, it started when my mama's magazines would come in. And I would go to the sections where the women's underclothes was. And I would start looking at the women's underclothes. Then it became a pornographic magazine. Then it became a pornographic movie. And I fear today, with all the technology that you have, it's not only the young men today, it's the young ladies too. And you're addicted to that stuff. You no longer carry a Bible, you carry your phone. You're on the phone while we're in church. As soon as you get out of church, you're out of here. You lock your bedroom at night and you're flirting with the enemy. I want you to go to the book of James because I want to show you something in the book of James, and James chapter 1. And I got to show you this because I hope this will minister to you. And I don't want to be long tonight. But if you go with me to the book of James, look at James chapter 1 and some verses here in James. Look at verse 13. It says this. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of who? Now, here's what happens. Look at me. How do we blame God? Indirectly. If I had different parents, I wouldn't be this way, Pastor Freddy. If I grew up in a different neighborhood, if I had a better this or a better that, and I know that you never say, God, it's your fault. But I remember when I was 14 or 16 years old, I would get on the side of my bed and I'd take things out on God and I'd say, God, if you would have given me a different dad and a different mom, why did you place me in this situation? Why did you put me in this situation? You're not fair. You ever said that to God? But you know what James says? Look at what he says. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But I want you to look at verse 14, because if you get verse 14, this can change your life. And verse 14 says this, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own what? Lust. I get married men that walk into my office just like Pastor Ray gets married men that walk into my office. Why'd you cheat on your wife? She wasn't good to me. It's her fault. It's because my mama and I had problems in my childhood. We were going through tough economic times. It's never their fault. Oh, the reason I went with this boy is because I didn't have a father. Well, neither did I, and I didn't have a mama either. And my dad offered me money, and he told me to go out with the girl and do things that wouldn't be pleasing to God. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's your responsibility. And here's what I want you to get tonight. Here's what I want you to understand in the big picture here of what's going on. I want to be real simple. But the first thing I want to establish tonight is when we sin, it's not God's fault. It's not mom's fault. It's not dad's fault. It's not homeboy's fault. It's not my sister's fault. It's not the pastor's fault. It's not the church's fault. It's not that they made us do it. We wouldn't have done it, but it's me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that old sin nature is still here. I told you what my grandpa did. I told you what my dad did. You know where that lives? It's in here. It's in here. That's in nature. Lives in me. And it lives in you. So look at what the Bible says. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived. The Bible's awesome. Let me tell you why. You know what it does? Is it gives you a picture of a pregnant woman. And I got to tell you this, all right? It's the flesh in me. And I got to be kind of graphic, but I got to be kind of real with you. The devil's never raped anybody. The devil's a seductor. He's a liar. He's a cheat. But he's never forced himself on anybody. What the devil does is he opens up an offer to you. And he says, come on in. And it's your choice. It's your choice to go on Instagram. It's your choice to look at the racy videos on Facebook. It's your choice to go on Snapchat and send that little pornographic picture to your buddy and your friend. Don't look at your neighbor. I'm talking to you right now. Because you want to blame everybody. You want to blame Donald Trump. You want to blame even Pastor Mike Ray tonight. You want to blame the economy. You want to blame this. You want to blame that we're Hispanic and we're white. I included you, sir. I want you to know that I ain't racist. I married a white woman. My kids are white. Pray for them. So here I am, no dad. I got a dad calling me a queer. I got a dad giving me money to go out with the girl. I got a dad throwing me car keys to go do whatever I want with her. I got a father who's telling my family that I'm queer. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand, Dad. Jesus broke those chains of sin from our family, messed up my grandpa's marriage, messed up our home. I don't have one memory of eating one meal with my mom and dad, not one. I don't have one memory of that. I don't have one memory of sitting at home and seeing my mom and dad anywhere. You know who did that? Satan did that. Sin did that. And here I get an invitation to go back into that garbage. I'm not touching that. Oh, but see, the front grass looks real nice in that house, and he talks real pretty, and he tells you everything's going to be fine. Oh, he loves you. He tells you, you so fine. There's nobody as fine as you. But when you're 8 months pregnant, and he doesn't answer your text messages, and he wants nothing to do with you, look at what it says. Look at what it says. But every man is tempted when he is drawn, verse 14, with his own lust and enticed. And when lust has conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth what? Death. Had a married man walk into my office crying. His mom came to our church. He said, Pastor, my son needs help. Sits in my office and says, Pastor DeAnda, thank you so much for seeing me. He said, I've been married so many years. He said, my wife cheated on us. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, who was it? He said, a close friend of the family. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, how can I help? He said, well, that's not the bad part. She's pregnant from this man. I said, oh, my soul. He said, but Pastor, I'm willing to forgive her. And I'm thinking, wow. I'm willing to take her back. And I said, wow. He said, the only thing I ask is that when the baby's born, We give it up for adoption, Pastor. Is that bad of me? I said, well, no, sir. I said, that's some grace on your behalf. I understand. He said, Pastor, I just don't think I can forgive her. I know I can forgive her. I know I can live with her again. He said, I just don't think I can look at that baby every day that was conceived in sin. She said no to that and left with that man. Check it out. Satan tempts you. You say yes. And you know what Jesus says? I'll take you back. I'll take you back. I died for you. I'll take you back. You don't have to stay with him. You're no longer chained up to him. You've gone and sinned because you chose to sin. It was your choice. Young people, I'm telling you right now, as long as it's your mom's fault, as long as it's the economy's fault, as long as it's somebody else's fault, you'll never be free. It'll always be out of your hands. But if you understand that when you sin, it was your choice and you decided to walk that way and it's your mistake, you are also the one that can get right with God tonight, young people. You are also the one that can turn around. But you know what Jesus says? I'll take you back, but I don't want that baby of sin with you. You know what the problem is? We'd rather keep on playing with sin. And you know what it did? Is it brought death to that marital relationship. And I don't believe that once you're saved, you can lose your salvation. I really don't. But some of you can't remember the last time you read a Bible. You come to church because your mom and dad make you come to church. But some of you can't remember the last time you weren't on your phone, not paying attention, falling asleep, where God got a hold of your heart. I got off the airplane and I tried calling my wife and she called me back and then she called me. We talked 3 times today. After I arrived, not in the morning. Last night I had my daughter and she's 5 years old. She says, I love you a billion million, Dad. That's like the biggest number she can think about. And every Thursday, I take her on a date, every Thursday. And I said, I'm going to be out of town. She goes, Daddy, tomorrow. And I said, I'm leaving tomorrow morning before you get out of bed. I said, I'll be gone while you're sleeping. She goes, Daddy, our date. I said, I took you Sunday night because I knew I was going to be out of town late. She goes, you did, Daddy, you did. I said, but when I come back, we'll go on another date. And I even bought her a nice peach that somebody gave me. Just for you, my peach. Make sure it lasts 3 months. And don't flush the toilet when you're eating it at night. Some of you are mad at your mom and dad. Some of you are mad at your pastor. Some of you are mad at God tonight. And Satan, the tempter, the seductor, he said, come on in. And you chose him over Jesus. You chose him over Jesus. You chose to go back to what your mom and dad left. You chose to go back into what mom and dad told you never to go back into. Look at verse 15. Then when lust, when it hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, it bringeth forth death. Some of you hate church now. Some of you are saying, I hate my mom and dad. Some of you are saying, this is a cult. I hate my pastor. I don't believe in God no more. And it all started one day when the seductor gave you an invitation. And you said yes. And you're all chained up. You got to move your chains at night. You got to hide. He's got you all locked up. He's got you so messed up in sin, you don't even know what to do. I was talking to a pastor the other day. Messed up in sin, Pastor Ray. For years. You know what? He looked at me. He said, I know this is going to sound strange. He said, but I want you to know I was walking with God through all of it. Some of you are so far in sin, so far in pornography, flirting with people on Facebook. Some of you are flirting with adult people and you don't even know. They say they're teenagers on Facebook. Boy, it's quiet tonight. Instagram, Snapchat. And if you can't control that, I would get rid of it. I have a 14-year-old son. He came up to me last night. He said, Dad, could I have Instagram so I can write my cousin in Iowa? I said, here's my cell phone, buddy. Write your cousin all you want from my phone. You're not having Instagram. He said, why, Dad? I said, let me tell you why. I said, son, I knew my grandma one year. His grandma was the most spiritual woman I know. She was in the house, my mother-in-law. I said, the 3 people that love you most in this world are in this house right now. Your grandmother, your mom, and me. Nobody loves you more in this world besides Jesus than we do. I said, Ma, yeah, Fred. I said, you think Sam should have one of those social media? No, they're of the devil, Fred. That's what I'm talking about, Mom. The other day, one of my boys, their hair was a little long, like some of you have it. And I'm really not messing with you, but my mother-in-law, man, she's like, Fred, they got one of them devil haircuts. You tell them they don't get a haircut. I'm not joking. They were going to go to Michigan to visit our uncle, her brother, okay? They blew off both of his legs in Vietnam, has no legs, so that you and I can have freedom in this country. No legs. Incredible guy. Sent me a picture. The kids were sending me pictures of a Purple Heart. I said, that's a real hero right there, your Uncle Tom. Real hero right there. She sent a message. Ellie, I am not taking Zeke to Michigan if Freddie does not cut his hair. 6 in the morning, I get my clippers out. Meh, meh, meh. I said, let's get a lot of gel. Dad, shut up. You're going to Michigan. Got a haircut. Some of you have social media accounts that your parents don't know about. Let me tell you what I always tell my boys. Don't keep secrets from me because I can't protect you. If you got, and I'm telling you right now, if you got a social media account and your mom and dad have told you you can't have that and you're disobeying, let me tell you what I would do. I'd come to the altar, I'd delete it tonight, and I'd go home and I'd tell my mom and dad, I want you to know I made a decision at youth conference. I disobeyed you. I got right with God, and now I want to get right with you. Because I'm telling you, the devil will use that in your life. He's subtle, man. He's sneaky. You know how people mess up? One touch. I got to get done, man. I haven't even gone through my notes, but I got to get there with you. I want you to go to Genesis chapter 25. Go with me to Genesis 25, all right? I want to illustrate something for you. We'll finish with one story, and then we'll all pray together, and we'll eat. I don't know what they're cooking outside. Are they cooking anything tonight, Brother Walter? I think I'm going to preach longer. If they had papusas, I was going to be done in 60 seconds, man. My goodness. Sir, do you know what a papusa is? You haven't lived yet, brother. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Papusa. Pupusa, but I'm just messing, you know what I'm saying? Don't laugh at me. Don't you look at me that way. Not him. He always thinks I'm like looking over here and you think I'm talking to you, man. What are you doing? Look at Genesis 25. I want you to show you Genesis 25 and look at verse 27. Where are we here? 2 brothers, all right? 2 brothers. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Hey, can I tell you something? Look at me. My brother, to this day, is smarter than I am. My brother Miguel. My brother Miguel was always better at sports than me. Always. Till I was 14, I was the shortest kid in the youth group in this church. My brother would make so much fun of me. I was the shortest kid in the youth group. And then one summer, I went to work with my dad, and I came back, and I was the tallest kid in the youth group. I don't want to tell you what my dad sold on the side and what he gave me and stuff like that. We can talk. Brother Ray has some underneath his table, though. I'm messing with you. Man, what is wrong with you guys, man? You guys are like, I was joking. I'm hearing my wife right now. Freddie, tell him you're joking. Yoking. Because you're going to go to the book table after I get done, and you're going to be like, Brother Ray, underneath the table, what you got, man? Books. No, the other stuff. That's all I got, man. Some of you are talented. Some of you guys are bigger physically. And that's your weakness. You think it's your strength, but it's your weakness because you're all external. You're all external. You got nothing on the inside. Where I live, our house has a basement. All right, I got to tell you this. I got this, I got Esau, and then I got one finishing story, and I'm done. In Indiana, we got basements. You know what's in my basement? I'm going to tell you what's in the basement, all right? In my basement is the electrical panel. That electrical panel runs all the house. I have a 2-story home. I even have lights in the attic where the insulation is. In that basement, I have a heater, an air conditioner, condenser, the A-coil, the condenser, and it sends hot air and cold air throughout all 3 floors. You know what I'm talking about? In that basement runs all the central plumbing of the house. In that basement are concrete walls that hold up all the structure. That basement runs the whole house. You know what happens when company's coming? You know what I tell the kids? Throw everything in the basement. And then we go down there and it's full of junk. I got any guys that work out in here? Any guys that work out? Anybody like that? Anybody go to the gym all the time? And I got a buff guy in here. Somebody like that? Anybody like, who works out every day, like goes to the gym and stuff? Give me a name here. Rolla goes to the gym? No, Rolla, that's a lie, man. Rolla's already thinking about the papusa, not lifting weights after the service. But here's what they'll tell you. Here's what they'll tell you. Some guys, they'll go to the gym and they only work on their arms because they want to show off the guns. You know what I'm talking about? And their chest. But then leg day comes and they skip it. You know what I mean? And they look like 2 straws walking on top of things. I read, and I don't go to the gym, and you can help me with this, but they say that the strongest people are those that always work on their core. Because that's where your true strength comes from, your base. Here's what I got to tell you, all right? Here's what I got to tell you. Here's where my fear is. Some of you cannot remember the last time. And I always tell people in church, and I know your pastor's going to say it different, but I tell people in my church this: stop reading the Bible. I want you to open that book and I want you to hear Jesus saying, I love you. Stop reading the Bible and open that book and look for Jesus, and you're going to find them throughout all those pages. And every time you read a chapter, Jesus will tell you, I love you. I love you. I love you. And here's what I want to tell you. See, every one of you have a basement. And if your basement's dirty, eventually the whole house will stink. Some houses have flooded in Northwest Indiana, and you walk in the first floor, and there's so much humidity and mold in the house, the floors have literally just buckled. And that's how some of your lives are. You've been hiding it. You've been putting everything down there, everything down there, everything down there, everything down there, all the garbage down there. Your parents don't know about Instagram. Your parents don't know about Facebook. Your parents don't know about this boyfriend. Nobody knows about your pornography. Nobody knows about this sin. Nobody knows you're dating Satan. Nobody knows the seductors in your home. You got it all hidden in your basement. But I'm telling you, had a lady in our church, one of her walls was caving in. She didn't fix it. Her whole house caved in. She lost the house and then had to pay the city to demolish her home, and the insurance didn't cover it. One day you're going to wake up and say, I don't know how I fell in sin. Nobody falls in sin. Once you get saved, you have a choice. You're invited. Now let's go back to Esau, and I got to finish, all right? Let's go back to Esau because you got to read it. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob, and Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint, and Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. What profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob sware, and he sells it. He sells something that he has never have sold. He sold something so cheap. Let me tell you what lie you believe in. Let me tell you where it starts. Satan will plant a lie, and this is what he'll tell you. What I am offering you is better than what God has for you. And you take it. Now I want to end with this. I got to give you a name, though. There was a little girl born in that home in Ohio. Anybody remember her name? Jocelyn. Let's say you went home tonight and you turned on CNN, and CNN said, breaking news. Girl abducted in Ohio, Jocelyn, has just turned 18 and decides to go back and live in the house where her mom was raped with the same man. What would you think about that? That's exactly what you do spiritually when Satan says the same thing. That's what you do. That's what you do when you let that boy touch you. That's what you do when you talk the way you shouldn't talk. That's what you do when you see what you shouldn't see. That's exactly what you do. You see, before we had no choice. Those ladies had no choice. But Jocelyn did have a choice. And today, me and you are like Jocelyn. Our parents, you know what I'm talking about? But wouldn't it be like the most gross thing ever if you heard that Jocelyn went back? But that's what you do. May God help us say no to sin. There are some sins in this room that need to be left at this altar just tonight, young people. I don't know what they are. I don't want you to tell me. But if we don't fix the sin problem tonight, I don't see how God's going to work it. If we don't go down to the root and down in that basement and open that door and see those chains of where you've been messing with the devil, and we don't rip them out tonight, how is the Spirit of God going to help us the rest of this youth conference? So we're going to stand right now. We're going to stand and we're going to close our eyes. Hey, and if you come forward, that don't mean you got all these messed up things. It just means you got a sensitive heart. I'm going to get on my knees on the altar, and I want to know if there's any young people that would say, Pastor, something you said tonight spoke to me. Something you said tonight. I don't even know what it was. It was at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. Would you come out of your seat? Will we pray together? Hey, you know why we came to youth conference? To make some tough decisions. But I don't want you messed up with the devil. I don't want you messed up with the seductor. I don't want you going back and putting on those chains. When Jesus broke the chains. When Jesus rescued you from the darkness. The devil's never forced himself upon anybody, upon any Christian. He's a seductor. Is there anybody else out there that would say, Pastor, I got something going on in that basement. My mom and dad don't know it. Nobody knows. I got to get right, Pastor. It's messing me up. David said that his bones waxed old because of his sin. It was affecting his health. Some of you can't sleep at night. You just got to get right. You just got to get right. You got to confess it to God. And if you need help, you got to tell your pastor. You got to tell your youth pastor. I need help with this. I've been chained up so long. I don't even know how to live a life. One of the ladies wrote, I didn't even know how to go to the store. It was weird. I didn't even know how to buy anything. I was chained up for 10 years. Some of you, you've decided to go back, and it's been so long, you don't even know what freedom in Christ is like anymore. Lord, I want to thank you for your word. I want to thank you for the chains that you broke. I want to thank you from the darkness that you rescued us from. How crazy would it be if we turned on the news and heard that Jocelyn went back? But that is exactly what we do when the tempter, when the seductor comes and he says, come back. And we say yes. God help us. If it's a social media account, would you just in your heart say, I'm canceling that tonight, I'm deleting it tonight. If it's without your parents' permission, If it's a boy or a girl you've been messing around with, you tell God at this altar, I'm breaking up tonight. I'm calling that person. I'm done. And I'm going to tell an adult, because this person's going to want to get back with you. And I'm going to say no. I'm going to surround myself with a multitude of counselors. If you're messed up in an addiction of pornography, I'm telling you, you need to talk to your pastor. You need to talk to your youth worker. It's so messed up. There's some holes that you need somebody to dig in with you and give you a hand to get out. I would be more embarrassed to be back in sin than to ask for help. God, please help these young people. They got their whole lives ahead of them. Please protect them, protect their minds, protect their hearts. I pray that tonight you reprove Satan and all his helpers, and that you put a hedge of protection around these young people this week. I pray that your Spirit speak to us all week. And we ask for these things in the mighty name of Jesus. And everybody said, amen. Thank you very much. You've been very kind.